Nathan, what is one food product you'd like to personally remove from every American's kitchen?
I'd like to remove one product.
One or two?
Boy, it's gonna be tough.
Or three?
It would be a little of a few different things. Like I would rather remove margarine and replace butter. I would rather replace butter with olive oil. And even things as simple as salt. So like as a chef, in every restaurant you've been to will probably use kosher salt instead of iodized salt because iodized salt is so small. And when you measure it out, if you're cooking my recipes and you're measuring out iodized salt, there's literally 2.5 times the amount of salt because they're so small as what I use for kosher salt. And it just doesn't taste good. So anything that doesn't taste good by itself, I would remove. So for example, olive oil, I love dipping bread in olive oil, but I would never dip bread in, say, canola oil. Like olive oil comes from olives, peanut oil comes from peanuts, canola oil comes from...
I said I don't know.
I mean, nobody knows. I know. What's a canola? I mean, does anyone know? And I think it's very interesting that people would just buy something because it's low in saturated fat and low in this, but the reality is olive oil is so much better for you than canola oil. And I don't believe in like going for that heavily processed stuff so you can eat a whole bag of chips and like completely mess up your internal organs, as opposed to like having a small portion of potato chips. So it just has to do with like really going to the basics. It's like oil's not bad for you, butter's not bad for you. When you start messing with things that are normally a liquid and making them to a solid, I don't trust that kind of stuff. So I remove anything that isn't picked right out of the ground or like milk out of a cow or a goat, or stuff that wasn't around 100 years ago. So processed foods, out again. I'll tell you a really quick story, whether it could be on this or not. I have two older brothers, and my mom sat us down when we were little kids. I was probably 7, and she said to the three of my brothers and I, 3 of us, she said, it's important that you guys learn how to cook. Because all my women friends that are having girls are not teaching them how to cook. They're teaching them how to be strong, independent, strong-willed women, which I love. But she said, chances are whoever you marry isn't going to know how to cook or squat. So it's kind of important that you know how to cook.
Right, right.
And plus, cooking chicks love chefs. And I was like, hey, you guys, sign me up.
We do.
Yeah. And so it wasn't so much a chore. So when you start taking baby steps into your kitchen, and I think the thing that keeps people from jumping in with both feet is the time element. So if hypothetically in the winter time you have wonderful apples, squash, things like that, you can make your own vegetable stock. So if I went into your own fridge right now, you'd find some limp, tired-ass pieces of celery, some like sprouting onions, and people just go boom and they throw it in the trash. For me, I just say cut it up, add water, add like those dried bay leaves that were like hand-me-downs from your great-grandmother, and some peppercorns, and you just made homemade stock that has like no sodium and plenty of flavor, and you haven't wasted the food you've spent money on to begin with.
Yeah, and those are things people don't even think about.
Yeah, if you can boil water, then you can make your own stock. And so now you have this great stock that you can use with rice instead of just using water. So now, why would you give up the opportunity to add flavor? When it's free, you paid for it anyway. And so it's like a butternut squash. Cut it in half, scoop out the seeds, salt and pepper, olive oil, and then go take a bath, right?
Yeah,
You just made homemade stock,
that.
scoop it out, a little bit of like yellow curry, whatever, and some ginger, and you just made like really filling, healthy soup, but it's all passive. It doesn't take any effort.
Right.
Go walk your dog, or spend time with your family. Like most of my cooking, it just cooks itself. Like a little of that, some salt and pepper, and throw it in the oven, and then you're like, I'm done, I'll be back. Set the alarm, and it's like 10 minutes, dinner's ready. Now, in the middle of winter, when I go back to Virginia with my family, I would rather buy frozen vegetables than fresh vegetables from California, because there's more nutrients in those. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with frozen fish as long as you thaw it like overnight in the fridge. So the integrity is good. Salt, pepper, thyme, olive oil, and it's gonna be the best fish you've ever had. But you have to start with the best quality that you can get. Go to the source, that's the best place. So I go to farmers markets because perhaps I wouldn't know how to pick out an artichoke. I mean, if I go to the store, I see people look at it and I'm like, They smell them, they squeeze them, they like hit them on your knee. Like, how do you pick out an artichoke? And that's kind of the secret of coming to a place like this, because you can literally say, what is this? How do you prepare this? And a lot of them just have recipe cards. And that makes your job a lot easier. So when you go home, you know exactly what to do. It's kind of like, and that's what I love about my show, is I'm just empowering people with the knowledge that I've learned at farmers markets from the farmers themselves, and also as a classically trained chef, because cooking methods are not difficult. They apply to so many different types of food, so many different facets of cooking. You can steam this, you steam this, you steam that. You roast that, roast that, roast that. So it's not that difficult. It's just finding that really flavorful, seasonal, local produce or whatever it may be that makes a great meal.